Our guest tonight is a remarkably versatile actor who shifts seamlessly between film, television, and the stage. He's played everyone from Jesus in the acclaimed television series The Book of Daniel to Dr. Michael Smith in David Milch's John from Cincinnati. And if you need more evidence of this actor's chameleon-like powers, then look no further than HBO's Deadwood, where he delivered exceptional work portraying not one, but two distinctively different characters. His resume of unforgettable screen work is equally impressive. In 2001, he performed in the unforgettable film The Believers. And this fall, he's appearing in two of the most eagerly anticipated films of the year, The Assassination of Jesse James with Brad Pitt and No Country for Old Men from the Coen brothers. It is a great pleasure to welcome to our show Mr. Garret Dillahunt. Mr. Dillahunt, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. Thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Oh, it's my honor.
I'm very excited about your two films this fall. These are the two that I'm most looking forward to. But you kind of came into acting. It wasn't a goal of yours initially, was it? It wasn't until your last year of college when you caught the acting bug?
Wow, I don't know who you've been talking to. Yeah. It was. I thought I was going to be a writer. I wanted to be a reporter, actually. I was a journalism major at University of Washington in Seattle, and then I took an acting class as an elective.
Yeah.
This is how, I guess, I was going to say green, but I should just say stupid I was, because I thought I should learn to write plays, because it's hard to make money, as a writer. Writing plays will be lucrative, Complete falsehood. But I ended up, I think, with a degree in, poetry and short fiction.
Oh, wow.
Also very marketable skills. But yeah.
So you started doing plays and things in that last year, and did it catch on instantly to you?
It did. I'm not quite sure why. I think people start doing this for so many different reasons. I'm sure it was some kind of therapeutic thing for me. I don't know. It was the first thing that held my interest in college, and so I stayed an extra year. I was so interested. Yeah, that's right. It took 5. That's right.
Oh, wow. That's all right.
Hey, it took 5 for me, too. Don't worry. You're in good company.
Yeah, that's the best, right?
Yeah, we took it, the 5-year plan, That's what I thought they were talking about all that time. I had no idea.
So you had aims to go into journalism as a reporter, but do you find that those skills that you have from studying to go into that field, that they come in handy, particularly when you're preparing a character?
I don't know if it's handy, but it certainly has influenced my choices, such as they are. I find myself drawn to, projects like Jesse James, like No Country, that are based on novels by 2 of my favorite authors, or drawn to people like David Milch, who's, he writes in, fucking iambic pentameter.
Yeah.
What? For TV? I just swore, too, by the way.
That's all right.
That's all right. I swear all the time, okay? This is the show David Mammoth would write if he wrote radio, okay?
David Milch would love our show.
Yeah. Yes, he would. All right, good. So I think it helps that way. It just it's the kind of things I'm drawn to that I do better. I'm kind of as good as the material in a way.
Well, did you study at all after college for acting?
I went to. I just got a taste of it in undergraduate, and then I was out, and I was like, oh, great, that's what I want to do, and now I'm out, So I auditioned for graduate schools in acting, which I don't think everyone needs to do, but it was good for me, I was a security guard in a bank in Seattle, and I like nighttime, like overnight, and I would go into empty conference rooms and practice monologues and stuff for my auditions.
Oh, wow.
For schools in my little powder blue polyester guard uniform.
Wow.
And auditioned for a bunch of schools. I got into a few on the West Coast, and then I got into NYU. And I chose NYU just because I'd never been east of Montana. And I'm glad I did.
Well, New York's the place to be if you're getting started, particularly doing theater work. And you've done extensive stage work too.
I think it's a great place to train. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like people that begin in the theater, and we're discussing Pacino earlier just a little bit, and he's definitely one of them, feel the need to go back as often as they can, kind of a tune-up. Do you feel the same way?
I understand that and respect that. I come from a small town. I come from a little town called Yakima, Washington, where there wasn't much of a theater scene, certainly not when I was a kid. And, my girlfriend in high school worked at the local movie theater, and so we could go see movies whenever we wanted. And so my idea of acting was very different,
Right.
I actually didn't have big aspirations for the stage. It kind of came with training. And I never thought, this is something I don't want to do. And I never thought this is all I want to do. And I think in a way that's kind of helped me just sort of, I do whatever, I can do. I like the change of stage, television, and film. That each requires, small changes in thinking, and I like that change.
I wanted to know a little bit about that because I was reading an interview recently with James Woods, and James Woods is very no-nonsense when it comes to technique. And he said there's really no difference between stage and screen acting, and maybe in terms of volume there is. But
right.
Do you find that there's a different discipline when it comes to both of those?
Well, I've seen, I remember a buddy of mine had gone to see, I think that it was a Streetcar. It was a revival of Streetcar Named Desire on Broadway with Jessica Lange.
Yeah. Oh.
Who got ripped for it, critically. But my friend who was sitting in the second row thought it was one of the most brilliant performances he'd ever seen. So I guess that's kind of what James Woods meant in a little more flat manner. Just there is a skill required in being able to project what you're doing and thinking and feeling, to the back of a house. You don't have the advantage of a camera being right in your mug, and you don't have to work quite as hard to do that.
Absolutely. I've heard that. I've heard that many times. I had one of my acting teachers attended Death and the Maiden. He attended, and I think it was Richard Dreyfuss and Gene Hackman and Glenn Close in this production. And he said that Gene Hackman is one of his favorite actors on the screen, but he was sitting at such a distance from him that he didn't register as well on stage. So I think that speaks to the same thing you're saying, too.
Yeah, I think there's a danger that we get used to giving the energy that's required in sort of our chosen field.
Yeah. So when did that big break come from you that carried you from the stage to television and eventually film work?
I don't know. Everyone talks about the big break thing, and I'm like, what is that? I've been a real steady guy. I'm not. I've kind of been a cork in the ocean, career-wise in a way.
Right.
I did theater for a long time. I lived in a box in New York, and then I remember I ran into I'd been working nonstop for like 7 years out of school, and I was literally walking down the street thinking, okay, where's dinner coming from? I'm hungry, and I got no money, and I ran into a classmate of mine, and he was like, hey, man, I saw you in the New York Times again. I'd give my left leg for your career. And I remember just thinking, what? I'm starving to death, and you think, and I'm doing good? It didn't feel like I was doing good,
Right.
And so that was when I thought, I've got to take a bigger hand in this and try to, it's great to live like an artist, if you're an actor, which is, I'm happy to hear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, this sort of, a constant choice between commerce and art that you go through. So it's great to live like an artist, but, sometimes you got to fund yourself and praise whoever when those two sort of overlap, like a Deadwood type experience. So
yeah, let's talk a little bit about Deadwood and your relationship with David Milch. When did you and how did you first encounter David Milch, and what kind of creative collaborator is he for you?
Yeah, he's great. I love that guy, and I know not everybody does, but we got.
I love him. He's done a lot for television.
Yeah, I think so. he's kind of just what you're talking about. You know, he's one of those people that he's. It's going to sound so presumptuous or pretentious.
You're among friends. Tell it like it is.
But it's you know, the great artists, they risk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They really put themselves out there, and it's real easy. And television is filled with it. You know, everything's filled with it. Stage, you know, film as well. This sort of safe mediocrity. Mm-hmm. You know,
the whole world is filled with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And David doesn't. He's not one of those. You know, he succeeds big. You know, he fails big. And arguably, John from Cincinnati was one of those failures. But he's never going to do anything but attempt something great.
Yeah, he doesn't take the safe route.
No, you know, and
I was.
What a great way to live a life.
Yeah, I was very upset to hear though that there may not be. There was supposed to be like these a couple of I guess TV movies on HBO for Deadwood to finish it up.
Right.
I was very sad, and that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard anything new on that front, or is that a dead issue like we've been hearing?
Well, I've probably heard what you've heard.
Yeah.
You know, as you know, I died after the second season, so I'm not like in the loop. But
yeah,
it always seemed to me like a far-fetched notion. I mean, it's a talented group of people.
Yeah.
Oh, very talented. I mean,
and the ones I keep in touch with, you know, had not been nailed down at all. You know, Timmy Oliphant is making movies like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Robin Weigert's on another series. I think Ian is about to start a long Broadway run.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, when are these going to happen? You know, if you started making them today, we wouldn't see them for another year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's 3 years since anybody's seen it. It just doesn't.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. The TV business, and I know that you're still heavily switching between TV and film, but the TV business seems to be more and more fierce in terms of having to establish an audience right out of the gate. I mean, just like film.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right.
Yeah, and even someone like HBO, who, you know, what more perfect network is there for a Deadwood or a John from Cincinnati? But you know, it's and these are fantastic shows, and I hear from people that they've seen them and they're crazy about them. But I think there's that whole Nielsen thing. I don't understand that.
I don't think anyone does anymore.
Yeah, and I don't even know if they're accurate anymore, and I don't know how much the Nielsen's come into play
on HBO,
on a network like HBO.
Right.
But I do know, like with Deadwood, there was a whole issue of foreign rights that had been sold, so there was never going to be any income from any foreign, you know, sales or airings or anything to HBO. It was some kind of joint production.
Mm.
And it was a very expensive show. You know, it's a huge cast with lots of animals.
Yeah.
And lots of people. And, you know, there was just no way they were going to get it back on subscribers alone. Because I think John was equally as expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
But they just didn't give away the rights. But that was a case of not enough people watching. So it's a real puzzle to me as well. And I hear so many stories, I don't know what to believe about why it came and why it stayed or why it went.
Well, another one of your series, the Book of Daniel, it was considered a little controversial out of the gate. But wasn't it the Book of Daniel, your commitment to that show that kept you from playing the role that you originally slated for in Jesse James?
Wow, man, you got
Hey, what role were you considered?
I'm like James Lipton. I have a whole stack of cards here.
James Lipton, but I am curious, what role were you considered for originally for Jesse James?
Well, it's funny.
You were great as Ed Miller, by the way.
Thanks, man.
I mean, I really like this film a lot. I saw it Friday afternoon, and it's very well done.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad you like it. It's kind of Milchian in a way, because people are going to love it or they're going to absolutely hate it. You know,
it's a different kind of Jesse James film, and that's what I like about it.
I hear it's kind of got a haunting lyrical quality, almost like a Terrence Malick film. Is that accurate?
It is like
very much.
Jamie, that's an excellent point. Yeah. That is very true.
Well, I just learned recently that Andrew Dominic, the director of Jesse James and Chopper, which I loved, was second unit on The New World.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If you're going to learn from anyone, learn from Terrence Malick.
And if you've seen Chopper, and I don't know if a lot of the people who are criticizing Jesse James have seen Chopper, if you've seen Chopper, I think you will appreciate Jesse James much more.
Yeah.
I really do. If you have, because I notice a lot of people that are just quick to pan this film, a lot of the reviews. If you've seen Chopper, I do honestly believe that you will appreciate this film more. It's much different from the Sam Fuller or Walter Hill or Philip Kaufman take on Jesse James.
Right.
And that's very important to know. I think if you're walking into this film with that notion, you are going to be, lost or misguided. Psychological.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very faithful to the book.
Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, back to this. So you.
Oh, right. So I just got killed. I'd gotten killed in Deadwood.
Okay.
And I had a full beard, which I'm sure would help anyone when they're trying to play Jesus. Because, I'm pretty white and blue-eyed and, non-Jesus material.
Yeah.
But, as we do, when we lose a job, we think, I'll never work again. And that was the first job I was offered afterwards. And I'm like, well, it's a series regular. The pilot's kind of brave. And I like to change it up. I like to try to do the opposite of what I did before, and who's a nicer guy than Jesus, So I thought, after these two, psycho killers I've played, how about I play Jesus Christ now and surprise everybody? And I thought the pilot was kind of brave and, tried to do some stuff and whatever. We did it, we shot it, it didn't get picked up. Come the summertime, Jesse James comes around, and I'm beside myself because I thought I was going to make a movie out of this book someday. I've been carrying this book around for years, and then I heard that Brad bought it, and I was like, dang it, I got to get in it. I auditioned, met Andrew. I really liked the guy. It went really well. I'm one of those actors that I have to go in a lot. I have to go in, 10 times to get a thing, and he didn't know who he wanted his people to be at the time. He was like, okay, you're in the gang, who are you going to play? And I ended up getting the role of Charlie Ford, which was...
Oh!
Yeah, which he was very happy about, and I was too. And I think I was the first gang member cast at the time. There wasn't anybody else yet. And then I think they cast Paul as Dick Little. He was still, at the time, looking for Bob Ford. I even read for Bob Ford once, which was a joke, because I was like, I think I'm about 2 decades too old for Bob Ford, but ended up with Charlie. And then we cast Casey. Thought we looked so much alike, it was going to be perfect. And then, of course, Book of Daniel came back around. It didn't die. It said, we're picked up. So I tried to get out of it. It's just typical sort of frantic actor story. I couldn't get out of it. They wouldn't let me out of it. Brad even offered to do a guest spot on the show. And I don't know why they said no, but they're like, no.
Huh.
So they
That's
sort of compromised and found another role for me. We were lucky to get Sam Rockwell to play Charlie Ford. I think he was great.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
He was a tremendous actor.
He was very hesitant to do it. He's been a friend a long time. We know each other in New York, and we talked on the phone a lot about it. And, I knew he was feeling funny because I was cast at it first, and also I think he's used to playing the guy. He's a star in his own right, and he didn't know if he wanted to be, second or third banana.
Yeah.
The way his career was going, he didn't know if it would be a bad move. But thankfully, we talked him into it, and it worked out well, I think. Certainly more people will see the movie because he's in it.
Right. Yeah, it's a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
Another fantastic actor is Tommy Lee Jones. And you work with him in No Country for Old Men, isn't that correct, with the Coen Brothers film?
Yeah. Tell
me about that whole experience. This is a movie for any Coen Brothers fan, and all three of us are rabid Coen Brothers fans on the show.
Yeah.
We are biting our nails waiting for this movie. So tell me about that experience.
I have no nails left.
You what?
I have no nails left, okay, so I mean...
Tell me about that experience of working on that one.
Well, I like that very much. It too is... I collect books. I'm kind of a nerd. I collect books. And
welcome to the club.
I like first editions, and I have all these Cormac McCarthy books, first editions. So it was 2 movies in a row by authors that I love, and I have all their books, and both of them shot by Roger Deakins. Like one of my favorite DPs.
Oh, he's incredible.
Life is good right now.
I would say it is.
Yakima, Washington. Just to sweep up on one of those movies, I'd have been happy. But I was a fan of the book. I don't know if you've read the book, the same title.
It's a good book. It's a very good book.
Actually, Chris here. He just recently finished the book, and he's been raving to me about it.
Yeah. It's very cinematic, don't you think, Chris?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's got that. Once again, I can see that kind of that Cormac McCarthy dialogue transferring to screen. I think that's going to be fantastic with the cast that's been assembled for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect for the Coen brothers too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So what kind of set does the Coen brothers keep? Is it laid back and relaxed? That's how they seem to be.
Yeah, they're real laid back. Me and Tommy Lee are the local law enforcement when it's 1980. And a really, really bad guy comes through town. Nothing like we've ever seen, and so we're in over our heads a bit. So I only worked with Tommy Lee. I didn't get to know the other cast real well. I met them all. I hung with Josh a little bit, and Kelly MacDonald is a sweetheart. But I didn't get to know them real well. So I think I was there a month and a half. We shot it in New Mexico, where my family's from, which was cool to see family. So it was just me and Tommy Lee and them, and I'm going to learn a lot on this. I'm really on the set with 3 directors, because Tommy Lee's a pretty good director. And
he's an excellent director.
That was one of my favorite films last year. Was his
It was good, wasn't it?
It was superb.
Amazing.
So I'm planning on just sort of keeping quiet. I'm just going to do my thing. And learn as much as I can from these guys, because they were all, I think especially, the Coen brothers are very gifted at casting.
Yeah.
And I think they're very secure when they make a decision finally, because again on that one I auditioned for Moss, who's the Josh Brolin played. I auditioned for that about 5 times. It's always like that, which I'm learning too. I didn't understand that about film. It's just sort of like the good ones. They find a group of people that they want to work with.
Yeah.
And then they kind of decide where to put them, it seems like, a lot of the time. And I don't know, it's so cool when people like that, at the top of their game,
yeah,
are so personable and humble and sort of, shy. It was a real surprise. They just would kind of, look at the ground and, kick stones. You know what I mean, while they talk to you, or
right.
Make a silly joke, or he's wearing a goofy hat. The Coen brothers in cowboy hats is something to see.
So now Ethan writes the scripts with Joel, correct? And Joel directs. Is that correct?
I get confused. It was a team. It seemed to me just about on every step. They both had input. When we're shooting, if there was something to be said, they both would walk up and they both would have something to say.
Okay.
So I don't know what titles are going down on paper, but they both seem to do about everything.
Just amazing filmmakers. I want to ask about a couple of these future projects you have, and then we'll let you off the hook here. I saw in your resume here that there's a TV pilot you shot with John Dahl directing. The lineup, is it?
Oh, right, the lineup. Yeah. I guess so.
What's the status? What's the status on that one?
I think that goes in the failed pilot pile.
Oh.
I think I was committed to something else, and so that was just a guest spot for me anyway. I was like the guest killer on it, on the pilot.
Well, if you're gonna make a one-time entrance, you might as well be the killer, the guest killer.
Yeah, that's pretty much who you're gonna be if you're a guest, right?
Right. And you just signed on for a role in the Sarah Connor Chronicles, which is based on the Terminator franchise. Did I read that correctly too?
Yep, that's right.
What can we expect from that one?
Well, I just finished my second episode. I mean, I don't know what's out there. I don't know. Is it a big deal if I blow it? I mean, I start in like the third episode. I play this guy named Cromartie, who's a Terminator. No one told me to keep quiet about it. I'm a Terminator on this thing, which will become apparent right away. So, and I'm assuming since I'm no Arnold Schwarzenegger that I'm more of a Robert Patrick Terminator. I mean, I like to go to the gym, but, you know.
Wow, that's going to be an exciting show right there.
I hope so. You know, I hope the special effects are good. Kind of like playing a cowboy. You know, every kid wants to be a Terminator.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And what network is that for? Who's producing it?
That's for Fox, and I think that doesn't start until January, I think.
Okay, January, all right.
Well, that's a great
Lena
network.
Headey is in it. Lena Headey is the lead. She was in 300.
Okay, so she's Sarah Connor?
She's Sarah Connor, right.
Okay.
Oh, wow. And if you're starting in Fox in January, that's a great time of the year to start a show with Fox, because I think that's when they roll out the American Idol and all of their big guns.
Yeah.
That's right.
Wow.
And we're past baseball.
Yeah, exactly. So the last question I have for you is there a talent out there that you kind of look to as a model for where you'd like your career to go?
These questions are always hard. There's a lot of people I admire and am inspired by. Acting-wise, I've liked Viggo Mortensen ever since Indian Runner.
Yep.
You know, I thought, and the stories I hear about him, he sounds like a pretty inspiring fellow who's, you know, trying to live his life a certain way.
Yeah.
You know, and really walk that line well. I like Sean Penn as an actor. You know, I'm drawn to, you know, even when I started, I remember really being turned on by like Gary Oldman and, you know, real transformation artists.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that shows some kind of skill that I feel we should all possess.
And all of these people that you're mentioning too, they seem to be very independent individuals, where they do what moves them. They have something to say. They don't care how commercially viable it is. They just care about the process of exploring whatever they're doing.
Yeah, I think that's very eloquently put. Yeah. I'm not going to expand on that one. That's good. And otherwise, you know, and I don't know them at all. You know, I don't know what kind of people they are, but you can tell a lot by the projects people choose.
It is a great pleasure to welcome back to the show actor Garret Dillahunt. Garret, are you with us?
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes,
I can hear you great.
Welcome back.
Oh, good. Thanks for having me back.
I'm excited about this movie, man. But I was reading an interview with you, and of course the obvious question that most people are asking you and everyone else involved in the project, I'm sure, is whether or not you saw the original before signing up, and you said that it somehow passed you by, which was odd for you, because you're such a huge fan of 70s cinema.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, and we're paying tribute to the 70s. We just did a tribute to McCabe and Mrs. Miller last week.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, what were some of those films of that period that really struck you the most?
It's hard, and sometimes I didn't realize how certain films are from the 70s. You just, you know, like certain films. But I always list Badlands among my favorites. Yeah. I can watch that thing all day long, and I just never seem to get tired of it. I loved like Electra Glide in Blue.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Yes, I do.
I thought that was cool, and there's this great movie called Scarecrow that was early Al Pacino. And
that's a great film. Great film.
Hackman. Just, I mean, there's so many.
Yeah.
I loved the Three Musketeers movies with Michael York.
Oh, those were wonderful films. Some of the greatest sword fights.
Fun. Yeah, exactly. One of the reasons I became an actor is because of those movies.
That's one of those movies. You mentioned Scarecrow. I've been trying to sell people on for years because it's a real gem of a movie that a lot of people don't know about. And one of the great pleasures for us, we spoke to Jerry Schatzberg, the director of that film, about Scarecrow and Panic in Needle Park, and I was in awe. He was probably slightly embarrassed.
Yeah. We try. So Last House on the Left. So now it's time for the obvious question. You had not seen it. So when did you catch up with it? After you read the script?
Well, I didn't want to watch it before shooting anything, so I watched it in bits and pieces after we were done shooting. Just to see. I think sometimes you can get improperly influenced by someone else's performance if you're playing the same part. I do the same thing when I'm on stage, you know.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people rush out and, you know, they get cast as, you know, Romeo or something. They'll rush out and rent the movies of Romeo and Juliet or go to Lincoln Center and watch tapes of past productions. Mm-hmm. I find it's an unnecessary obstacle because then instead of following your instincts, sometimes you're thinking, I want to do something different than that guy did there, so I won't do that. I'll try this, and I think it just gets in the way.
Yeah.
But I watched it later, yeah.
Even so, you met with David Hess, who originated the role, didn't you?
I didn't meet with him. I don't know how that story got out either. I called him long after the fact, I did an interview before, and I wasn't misquoted, but I was punctuated.
Okay.
That
makes sense, actually.
I had said something like, I said the phrase like, it's not like we're remaking The Godfather.
Yeah. And
it was in the midst of a whole conversation about, and my point was not so many people knew about it as knew about The Godfather. Mm-hmm. And it sounded in the interview like I was criticizing the quality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I tracked him down and called him up just to assure him that I was not being disrespectful. Because I really like actors.
Yeah.
And he was really cool. We had a nice conversation then, just about, you know, the process and, you know, a little bit about what he did and how foreign directors seem to really like us both.
Right.
He's a really nice guy. I really enjoyed talking to him.
I'm wondering.
I hope he'll be at the premiere. Sorry.
When is your premiere?
Tuesday
night.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow. I'm wondering about your reaction when you read this script. First of all, do you follow the genre at all? The horror kind of thriller genre? Are you a fan of it in general?
I like all kinds of movies. Yeah, I think a hardcore fan would probably, you know, sniff at my sensibilities maybe, or my knowledge of the genre. I like a good story. I don't care what genre it's in.
Right.
But I know that it's almost like a subgenre of horror too, right? There's people that like sort of the exploitation side of horror. There's people that kind of like it if it's badly acted and badly produced, you know, that they like the feeling they get from that.
There's a lot of truth in that, yes.
Yeah, you know, so it's not, it's complicated, you know, but
that's a very nice
certainly
euphemism for that, yes.
Yeah. Now, but did you have, what was your reaction? Because this is, at least the original film was very brutal, and I'm sure this one is brutal by necessity. I mean, that's the story you're dealing with.
Right.
But what is your reaction to that kind of violence?
Well, I apologize if I repeat myself because a lot of people are curious about how this came about, but I'll tell you how I got this part because it's unusual for me. I don't get offers much, and I got a call about this movie. I guess director Dionysius, this is the story I got anyway, had seen Jesse James and wanted me to be in this movie, and. You know, and I just assumed, they never said Krug, they just want you to be in this movie, and I just assumed that they wanted me for, you know, the dad, for the doctor, Collingwood, you know, and because in the script they kept describing Krug as the hulking Krug, you know, the massive, you know, dark silhouette in the back of the police car, Krug, and I was just like, oh, I might be tall and I'm reasonably fit, but no one's ever described me as hulking. You know? And I just thought, I'm probably the dad, you know. And he said, would you meet with us? And I came in for a meeting, and that's when they told me they wanted me for Krug. And I was a little bit surprised and sort of excited by that challenge.
Right.
but before I'd read the script, they just sent it, and they sent along with it a copy of Dennis's first film called Hardcore, which I don't know if you've had a chance to see, but it's worth it. And my initial response was dismay, because I was just like, oh, geez, this guy did a film called Hardcore, and you know how you sort of, you're so hard on yourself, like if they want me, this must suck, kind of, you know what I mean?
Right.
Well, after watching the Assassination, I don't think you should feel that way, or No Country for Old Men, you shouldn't feel that way anymore. If you did at one time, you shouldn't.
That's nice of you, but I don't know what it is. You carry your childhood with you,
Oh, I do it every day, my friend, so don't worry about it.
It's therapeutic, this whole acting thing.
Yeah.
But regardless, I was like, oh, this must be crap if they want me, and then I read it, and I was like, this is actually kind of an interesting, challenge. And then I watched his movie, which was so beautiful and handled so well, really delicate subject matter, including sex.
Yeah.
It was uncomfortable when it was supposed to be uncomfortable. It wasn't shot in a way that I thought was, him taking advantage of the situation. It was to further the story. And so I suddenly had a lot of faith in him to tell this particular story.
Yeah. And even so, it seems to be a little more fleshed out, this new film, in terms of the contrast between the two families, in a way. I mean, your group and the parents, the suffering parents. What did you find interesting in terms of development and character depth in this for you?
Well, I guess, in a way, you just sort of said the whole thing. That is interesting. No, I don't mean that. I
tend to answer questions before I ask them.
I should just
Danny
go.
is the amazing Kreskin.
Yes.
No, that's not what I meant, but I'm just like, that's the very thing that was interesting. I like complex characters, and again, this might be a difference between the kind of horror I want to see and the kind of horror that a lot of fans of the genre want to see, is that I get more scared about things that I feel could actually happen.
Yeah.
Like that, and I get a little charge out of that feeling of, gosh, what would I do in this situation, and could I do it? Am I up to the task? And it's only more interesting then when, you've got real people you're dealing with, when you've got real situations, and people are complex,
Yeah. Great
he's
actors.
A father, he's a shitty father, but he's a father.
Great actors in this piece too that can really bring those complications to life. It's an amazing cast in this film.
I think so too, and we all. It was like everyone had something to prove or something. When you say you wanted to elevate something, it's not always that there was a problem with it to begin with, but it's like we were handed something good, and we were all like, now let's contribute our part and try to make it even better. And the result is, oddly, this film that I'm quite proud of, and I think is a little deeper than your average horror movie. I think there's plenty of exploitation there for those that like that or that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think there's something more there?
Yeah, if you want to look a little deeper, I think there kind of is. It's not cut and dried. No,
of course it's not cut and dry. I was just curious, because of the times we live in now. Do you think with the whole, obviously the big thing in the original, from what I know, is the revenge factor. And do you think the revenge factor plays into a feeling that we felt after 9/11, this desire to strike out?
Absolutely. I think it's not necessarily specifically that.
No, of course not that, but that was just the first thing that came to mind when I saw the trailer.
No, I just mean not only that. I think the audience can kind of fill in the blank. I think a lot of people feel equally raped and powerless in the face of our own government, perhaps.
Oh, yeah.
Or the economic situation.
Oh, of course.
And certainly people could put terrorism in there, and what would happen if my home was invaded or my family was hurt.
Right. But it's the economic situation now takes the cake over that one.
It's a strange release. It's sort of, we put a face on that, the cause of that powerlessness with, Krug and his family for people. It's almost like, here you go, here's someone to hate.
Right. No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
And we've talked about this before on the show. It's this genre of film is uniquely qualified to address those cultural issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like metaphor, right?
Yeah. Even so, I hear actors speak a lot about the importance of not judging their characters, and I'm wondering if that's a particular challenge for you when you're playing someone that does such awful things.
Well, I can certainly see how it is a challenge. It's hard to say. I played Hitler, and I loved the guy actually. I got to know Hitler. He's not such a bad guy, and you can't totally separate yourself from your own morals. But you know what I think it is you have to want to tell the whole story more than you want to pass judgment on somebody. You know what I mean? And so it's like the way around it is. And while I certainly have sympathy for Krug, I think life's certainly handed him a shit hand. Mm-hmm. But not necessarily any shittier than anyone else. I'm just swearing like crazy. Is that okay?
That's all right. You're on the right network to do that.
Okay. Free reign.
Not necessarily shittier than anybody else in this world. Even say than the Collingwood family. They've been handed a shit hand too, but they just have responded to that in completely opposite ways.
Yeah.
Krug can't let go of it. He feels slighted. He's angry at the world. He's angry that he was born. He's just, this is not. I've done everything right. How can the pussies of the world live, and I'm in jail, and he's just, he's just so angry, he's ill-equipped to deal with failure and hurdles.
Yeah.
And, so I feel sorry for him, but at the same time, he's got to pay.
Uh-huh. This is what fascinates me. This is what fascinates me about you playing this character. And maybe I'm wrong about you. It's just an impression I get about you. You seem, for lack of a better term, you seem like a pretty zen kind of guy. Very, very balanced. But so I'm wondering for you how you get to the place where you're doing playing this pretty rough character.
Well, I guess I mean, you'll have to tell me next time we talk, after you've seen it, if it was successful or not, and I guess that we'll find that out when the film opens.
Yeah. I'm sure it's successful. I mean, we love your work. We think you could do anything.
That's sweet. That's sweet of you, and I don't know what to say. I don't want to demystify the whole thing too much, or sound like I'm some know-it-all about it. I feel like I'm still just figuring it out. But at the same time, I feel like I'm an actor. That's just. I thought that's what we were supposed to do, was play people, far-ranging characters, widely divergent from one to the next. That's what we were to aspire toward, and to play them fully and fairly and as much as we can without judgment, on all to serve the story, and the story has to be told, so.
Well, on the flip side of it,
that's freeing for me. That's freeing for me if we just think about telling the story.
Yeah, I can understand that. But on the other side of that, there's how do you let it go when you're embroiled in such an intense character? Is it difficult? Is that a discipline that you're still learning, or?
Well, if it's horrible stuff, it's a great joy to let it go. You're just like,
yeah.
I didn't really do those things. It requires a certain amount of focus, I suppose, on set. Which, depending on the day, you're more successful at than others. But this cast in particular was really a lot of really intelligent, funny people.
Yeah, that's what I understand. Yeah.
And I think everybody was just like relieved as hell to, blow off steam at the end of the day, or, play a practical joke between takes. And I think it was a self-defense mechanism,
We spoke to Ricky, actually, and we're about to play her interview, and she said the same thing. She said the group was a lot of fun to be around. That was important. I'm wondering.
Kisser, by the way.
I didn't cover that. See, we should have spoken to you first. I would have. I didn't investigate that with her, but
I told her I've been telling that in every interview. She's like, good.
I'm wondering, for you as an actor, you do your homework. You come as prepared as you possibly can, and I doubt many of these film shoots allow for rehearsal time. Correct?
Rehearsal time is rare. I mean, beyond rehearsing just before you go.
Yeah.
And that's more for camera,
right.
than you.
Right.
But this one we had a week of rehearsal before we started. Ricky probably told you.
Oh, okay. Because I'm curious, when you arrive on a film set, what that first day or that first week is like for you. And for this particular film, was there an aha moment where you thought, okay, I got it now?
I think, I don't know if there was. I remember in my research period, and I'm kind of in the middle with research. I do quite a bit, not as much as some, I think, and more than most. And it just kind of depends on the project, what questions you have for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But I had come across this FBI guy's, this profiler's chapter he'd written about Andrew Cunanan, who's the guy that killed Versace.
Right, okay.
Not where I was expecting to find inspiration for Krug, because he had the whole, issues with his sexuality and, cross-dressing and just. But there was an account of a horrific murder that I didn't know he had done on his way across, where he'd killed an older gentleman in his house because he needed a new car. He needed a car.
That's right.
And there had been some other killings along the way as he needed things, but they were quite clean, almost merciful in their way, if there is such a thing. But this particular one was like just beyond cruel. Like just the amount of rage expressed in this murder was such overkill. I mean, he was like duct taped and burned and then stabbed and run over like multiple times. I mean, just this, this guy was in his 70s or something, and as the profilers are guessing, like, well, he was a tough old guy. He probably was not going to take any shit from this kid, He probably reminded him of his father. But they were just saying how this type of rage was rarely displayed outside of someone who knew the victim, something personal. And he didn't know this guy from Adam.
Right.
And I thought Krug was like that all the time. There's so much rage. So a long answer to your question, and I think that was for me the sort of there was a big click for me there. It's about how he behaves. It has this twisted sense of fatherhood and leadership kind of come about.
Yeah. Have you seen this film yet with an audience? I know your premiere is Tuesday, but have there been preview screenings or anything? Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've seen some screenings, and I guess it's still not a completely honest audience, if you will. I mean, it's either a lot of in-house people or it's press,
Right.
And press has been really incredible to us, which, I mean, I was braced to have to defend it a little more, and I'm really surprised and pleased about how positive they've been about the whole thing. But I have seen it in front of an audience yet, but I've been nervous.
Can you do that? I mean, when it releases this upcoming weekend, will you try to sneak into the theater and see the audience reaction, or are you done with something after it's over?
This one is hard to sit through with people I know. I'm almost thinking about just waiting in the lobby at the premiere, just because I'm so nervous about what people are feeling during it. Because you see them hiding their faces, or just like they got their feet up on the chair. It's really affecting emotionally.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to enjoy, while I watch my friends go through pain, and I think, oof, maybe I shouldn't have invited them, or, So I would actually rather see it with a bunch of strangers and just see what an honest response would be. You know, if they're walking out in droves or they're cheering. I don't know.
I'm sure they'll be cheering. I mean, I think this closing of this film sounds pretty cathartic.
That's a key word, I think.
Yeah. Your upcoming, I noticed one of your upcoming films is called Burning Bright. I wanted to ask you about that. You shot this in Florida. I think you shot this about 45 minutes away from where I am now.
Oh, really?
In Florida, yeah. I live between Tampa and Orlando, so I think you shot this near Orlando?
Yeah.
Universal area?
Yeah, I think we stayed at the Hard Rock Hotel right there in Orlando.
Good times.
Nice. Yeah.
So tell me about this project.
This was, I didn't know much about it. I liked Carlos. He directed Quid Pro Quo, Carlos Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those moments where, you know, I had like 3 days off from filming Terminator.
Right.
And they called and were like, would you do this movie? And I'm like, well, I have 3 days. And they're like, okay, we'll do it in 3 days. So they flew me out, and I just kind of jumped in. So
wow.
I don't know how that one's going to be, but I really liked Brianna Evigan a lot. She's coming actually to the premiere with me on Tuesday. I mean, with a bunch of other friends.
Yeah.
She's pretty cool, but it's a twisted little storyline, isn't it? It's hard to tell people what that one's about.
I did read the synopsis, and I thought, I've never seen this movie before. I haven't even seen a version of this movie before. It's great.
It's the same people that did, is it Little Children? No. What was the one with the girl from Juno?
Hard Candy?
Hard Candy, that's right, Hard Candy. It's
wow.
the same producers as Hard Candy.
Wow.
So, you know, people with good pedigrees. And,
that's quite a film, yeah.
Yeah. This one, you know, I don't know. I guess I'm just a bad father. Something about me says bad father. I'm a bad father in this one as well. A bad father with a tiger.
Right. And is there? I know you're an actor, and you'll pursue whatever your interests dictate. But is there a type of character or a type of project that you're longing for?
I don't know. I mean, we've talked before, so I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I like change. You know, that's what I get the biggest charge out of, is doing something different from last time.
Yeah.
Even if it's two bad guys in a row, it's like, well, these guys are different in this way, or that.
Right.
You know, I just like that challenge. It might be fun to, you know, kiss a girl in the movie and have her like being kissed. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
There's an acting challenge for her, whoever that may be, but that would be fun.
I wish you all the luck in the world on that.
Thank you. One geek to another.
Exactly.
Good luck with that, Sal.
We have our own problems with that here.